Uh, yes. Is that time again? Is that time again? Barber College Success, brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy, JC Crown Cutz Academy, now Bristol, Virginia, and Craig Crown Cutz, downtown JC. This is how we do it, spreading love the Johnson City way. The only way we know how to do it is the Crown Cutz way. Today we're going to strategize and give you something heavy. Today we're going to talk about how to study. Because most people come to school, whether it be college, elementary, middle school, high school, secondary vocational schools, and there is some type of technical learning that you have to do. But one key factor is a lot of people don't know how to study. So today, with my guests, we're going to break down that stigma and give some feedback, give some tips, and put you guys back on the right track. Again, we're live on Market Street Media. Give a shout out to Lathan. If you have any questions, you can send us a question. Lathan is really good with putting it on the board, and we'll attack the question right away. For all our live listeners out there, I'm going to let my guests introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump into this topic. How to study. Start with my right, the lovely Miss. You had a nice little laugh, that voice.
I am Faye Rutledge, and I am a 30-year plus English teacher, and I'm just happy to be here.
So where have you taught, Miss Rutledge?
I taught at Sullivan South in Sullivan County. I taught in Washington County, and I went on to Elizabethan High School, and then I finished up at Science Hill High School and Johnson City Schools, and I came out of retirement in August because I'm doing an interim. It seems like we have a couple of teachers that are pregnant back to back, so they needed someone to be there, and I'm happy to be back. I love teaching. I mean, I really, really missed it that time that I was away from it.
And you're forgetting something. The co-author of my...
Yes, I am going to be the co-author of Craig Charles' learning manual. I don't know.
Biography, learning manual. You're going to do it all.
Yes,
we got a couple of them.
Yes,
couple editions.
And I am a seasoned writer, and I actually have had some things published. So we will talk.
There we go. My guy, Charles Brunson.
My name's Bronson Coffee. I actually attend Craig's school. Been there going on about 8 weeks.
And I'm Brent Barker. I'm a student at Crown Cutz Academy, JC. I started with Bronson, so
you guys got to talk about your Instagram name. Where can we find you guys? Give yourself a shout out.
Mine's the Barbell Barber.
Say that again. The what?
The Barbell Barber.
Where'd you get that from, Brunson?
Well, man, it's kind of funny because everybody that I really know, I know from the gym anymore. That's pretty much what my life is outside of the house and outside of school. What's funny is right before I started coming to school, I tried to buy a gym out. The gym thing didn't go through, and me and my wife discussing about future goals, what we planned on doing. So the more we got to talking, I was like, well, if I go to school to be a barber, we could open a business together. Her Instagram is Hair by Erica Coffee, spelled with a K. And she's big time color fanatic. So since I didn't get the gym, we're focusing on trying to actually buy a building together to do a barbershop slash beauty salon.
That's
together.
right. Barbershop. I like that.
So, so the barbell thing just kind of come along with it. Everybody's giving me a hard time, and I said, well, pretty much everybody knows me from the gym. That's who I was, and that's I feel like it just suits me.
You gotta stand out. That's what we talk about. B, what did you? I seen it the other day. I was like, I couldn't even pronounce it. I thought it was something. I thought it was a clothing brand. No. Did the wife help you with that?
Yeah, she was trying to come up with something. She told me I should do something Viking-esque because we like Viking shows and stuff like that. I don't know. So it just Valhalla. Valhalla is where the I guess I'm probably gonna get this wrong, but it's like their heaven.
It
And I
Okay.
is.
just thought it sounded cool, like Valhalla cuts, like heavenly cuts type thing. So
Okay, I like that.
yeah, so
Yeah.
and it was kind of
Mythology.
mythology. Yeah,
Mythology. When I looked at it, that's why when I
yeah,
saw it there, I thought of that.
yeah. I've been trying to think of something catchy ever since I started school, and I couldn't. So I was like, I need to make an Instagram. But I just started yesterday, so if you do follow it, I only have like a picture up there. But I'm getting started. So
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere.
yeah, we've only been cutting for what, a couple weeks now. So
Hey, that last haircut you did on Saturday, that was good.
yeah,
That was a good
yeah.
cut.
We got to talk about that later. You got to talk me through that one again.
That was part of it.
I don't think I'd have made it without you doing
Hey,
that one.
that's what I'm here for. That's why I'm an instructor. I love my job. I love doing what I do. So, hey, if I can reach out and touch you, I will. Jumping into this topic, how to study. So the reason I brought this topic up, because when I think of, there's so many different types of learners out there. And there are a lot of people coming into secondary education who are changing careers, who right out of high school. And a lot of times when you're changing careers, you've probably been in a career for a while and you haven't touched a book, looked at a book, or tried to do any type of studying in a long time. Why are you laughing, bro?
'Cause that's exactly where I'm at. But I haven't studied anything in over 10 years, and then I try to go back to school. I mean, I've been out of high school almost as long as some of the students have been alive.
but that's okay, because the thing is too, a lot of the younger students, they have some of the hardest time studying because they have been pushed through school with this new thing, no child left behind, and now
Does that work with barber school?
no,
Nobody left behind type deal.
if you don't get it, bro, so you ain't gonna get it. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So you got to leave some childs behind in barber school. But just be serious. So this is a serious topic. I was walking through talking to one of my students one day. He's like, Craig, why don't you do a podcast on how to study? Because I got my college degree and I've been teaching for 4 years now in this barber school thing. And I didn't learn how to study until I got out of college. And one thing I realized, once you make learning fun, you're going to grasp it more. So once you make learning fun, studying is a little bit easier because you want to absorb the information and you want more. So that's one of the first things I thought of. How to acquire information was to make it fun for me. So I kind of played a game with myself and started reading books that was interested to me. And then that made it into like another game. Came up with a book club to socialize with friends and meet people and just vibe and talk. And that started helping me retain information just by reading more. But today we have this panel of experts, most expert of them all, in this panel, Ms. Rutledge. So, Ms. Rutledge, what are your views on learners who are changing careers and students who are coming right out of high school and have a deficiency in learning? What are your views on that? I know you have a lot of views on that.
Well, first and foremost, when you're dealing with students that have just come out of high school, you still have a maturation there. You know, there's a reason why we say that you are legal at 18, but we also know that some things come when you're 21, because to be honest, that scientifically, your brains are still working. And a lot of people don't think about that, you know, and even though I have 2 adult sons now, 46 and 47, I began thinking about that, you know, that you thought that they were in high school and, you know, they get out and they're ready to go to college. But then we see more and more now, partially because of what you said with No Child Left Behind. That has been something that has not been as successful as we would like for it, because we learn at different levels. When you are coming back, as you were saying a few minutes ago, that you had been out of school, you know, for a long period of time, when you do come back, you're focused. In other words, you are invested. You are invested right now.
Right.
It is your interest. Now, Craig also said that learning should be fun, and it becomes fun when you're interested in it. You know, that's one of the things that we struggle with as teachers, because we have certain things that have to be taught to build that foundation. But I think that you said this just a few minutes ago when you were even talking about book clubs and things like this. I think the first thing that really happens is your instructor has to make that contact. In other words, I am not here powerful, that kind of thing. I'm here because I understand that you want to be here. And once you build that bridge, then I think that opens up the mind. You see what I'm saying? And then it's like, oh, okay. And I always tell kids, yes, I do have something that you want, but the thing is, I want you to take it and do other things with it. So when you really start talking about learning, the first thing I think that any instructor has to do is sit down and talk to your students individually, because then you begin to see, like for myself, I'm a visual learner. Now, auditory, yes. So I'm one of those, especially if I am in a position that maybe, and I'll just say technology, because, that's something that, still kind of scares me a little bit. It's always like I'm thinking I'm going to shut the whole system down. So if you sit down with me and you tell me, okay, I want you to do this step by step, that works for me. Now, my husband will tell you, don't send me something that has a lot of instructions in it. And I pull that box open and I'm trying to figure out A goes here and C goes here. So there will be some learners that work. Do you see what I'm saying? Someone that really likes to build things, then that part would work. But for me, that doesn't work. So that's why I'm saying that we have to determine, first of all, interest. Second of all, then how am I going to master this? Then after that, we got to get organized.
Right.
And that's the hardest thing. I don't care. When I was teaching college, when I was at Northeast doing some things there, it's that concept that you've got all this material and okay, so I got to have this and I got to have that. And it doesn't work like that. You have to really begin to segregate things.
Right. So that being said, that's a lot of information to process, Brent.
Mhm.
What do you think when you hear Ms. Brett? Let's break it down like that. What's going through your mind?
Sure. Right now, what's going through my mind is organization. Like she said, it's like I need to organize when I study better.
Right.
Which I've kind of come up with my way of doing it now, and it seems to be working for me pretty good. I mean, I've done pretty well so far, but I mean, we're only 2 months in. But
How do you do it?
how do
you, because that's usually one of the things that I ask my students when we really start talking. I say, show me.
Well, how I study is, when we're in class, we read through our chapter in the book and we go over it together. But then I go ahead and mark stuff that I don't know, I don't understand, and then I go back and, especially on a lot of the stuff like the medical terminology that we were on a couple chapters ago, I actually went back and looked up the root word because that helped me a lot, is knowing and understanding the root words of that. And then once I understood that root word, it pertained to a lot of other things in that chapter, because they kind of went back and forth. I mean, but the root word was used over and over. So if I studied that, it helped me a lot to break it down like that.
What was the one you told me the other day, bro? You told me it was the Greek meaning of it was stink.
Oh, brome. Anything brome was smell.
Yeah, an odor.
Yeah. My wife taught me that, so and I remembered that.
Hey, each one teach one. That's what it's about.
Right.
So one of the best graphics I've seen in my life, when I was going to instructor school in Nashville, he said, picture this graphic. There's 5 animals. There's an elephant. There's a tiger. There's a great white shark. There's a snake. There's a lizard. And there's an owl and a butterfly.
All right.
He said, try to teach each one of those how to climb a wall. You can't, because they all have different skills.
Pretty sure that was Albert Einstein
But-
that made that note.
But they're all animals.
Yeah.
So you have to find their skills and teach them how to get to the top of the wall. One animal might have to wait it out. The other animal might just jump. The other animal might push it down and let it fall from the top. So you have to teach them different skills to get to that point. And it's the same way that applies to all of us as humans. We have different learning skills, like you said. Break it down, sit down, and get to know your students individually and motivate them in a different way.
Exactly. And I was listening as you were doing the animals, and what we tend to do, you have those little acronyms. You know what I'm saying? In other
Yes.
words, I had to laugh because in the lower grades, when they are teaching certain things, they'll come up with like fanboys, and fanboys, goes with, so that you understand for and OR and so on and so forth. But, all those little things. I think that that's why I ask you, how do you learn? Because then when I have a student telling me what they're seeing, then that gives me, again, being a visual learner, and then I can kind of map it out, and then I can show them. One of the other things, I'm so proud of you. You said that you go back and you look at this, because my rule of thumb has always been 3 times. Do it 3 times. And there's a reason for that. First time when you're looking at any new material, it's usually new to you, but you've already mastered something. If you're looking at the morphemes, you're looking at what a word is, and you're beginning to say, oh, this is a Latin derivative, this is a Greek derivative. And you're beginning to, whether you realize it or not, you are organizing in your brain. Okay.
Right.
So the next thing is, first time you're just going through it. Second time, you're beginning, because if you're marking when you see a word or something you don't know, then the next time you're looking at it, most likely, if you stop and think about it, if you're not really frightened, you really begin to look at what we call context clues. Because, if it's in the sentence and you can kind of think, wait a minute, let me take that word out and see if I can determine what this sentence is saying. And then you put that there, you automatically, your brain pretty much says, oh, okay. So then the third time through, you won't struggle as much. Now, if you happen to struggle, then and have to do it a 4th time, that's okay. But by that time, your mind is already putting things in place. Our brains are the first computers, whether we realize that or not, and common sense also. And I think that's what we talk about now, critical skills thinking. Critical, and that's what we're really discussing here, are critical skills. How do I get the information? How do I desegregate it? And then once I'm looking at my topics right here, then I begin to visually say, okay, this goes with this, this goes with that. And once you do that, most of the time we find out that that obstacle is not nearly as difficult, to go with.
So what I'm hearing here is the first part really is just
Familiarizing.
having the strategy,
Yes.
prioritizing yourself. How am I going to approach this? Because if you don't have a blueprint, a map to get to the treasure, you never get to it.
That's right. And it's problem solving.
That's
That's really what life is if you go back and think about it, when we say the skills, we encounter our problems, and how do we do what we're going to do?
Right. Somebody told me this years ago. I've been a trainer at every job I've ever had. I've trained all the new people coming in. Somebody told me this about teaching. Teaching's just, and learning's just like giving directions. Right. You can't tell somebody how to get somewhere if you don't know where they're at.
Right.
You don't know how they're traveling. You don't know what's going on. So you got to figure that out. And learning's the same way is what they told me. You got to figure out where you're at, and you got to find the next step to get to it. It's on the same lines what you're saying.
So listen to what's going on right here, Brunson. What's going through your mind? What are you thinking about? What's the first thing coming to your mind on that topic?
I was fixated with what he was saying, though, giving directions to people. You say, take 81 down to so-and-so exit. So I'm like, no. What am I passing? Should I be passing a barn?
There you go. That's thank you so much. I got to have. You can give me maps and things all day long. Tell me what my landmark is.
Yeah, I mean, like you go down 3 trailers, turn at Uncle Joe's, and bam, you're there.
So have a strategy. Have a game plan, because when you have that, it helps. So one of the game plans has some flashcards.
There. This is why I brought these right here. Index cards are your best friend, and you don't write down everything. That's the other thing. And I think as adult learners, we tend to do that because we then are thinking like, I've got to get everything. I've got to get everything. And so you have buzzwords.
Right.
So once again, and I was thinking when you were saying that, those buzzwords right there. Okay, that's a word. All right, and I put it here, and I mean, there's a reason why when it says flashcards, they've been around forever. They're not going anywhere. You
So
know,
you looking through the course book, looking through the subject of matter, then using your flashcards, rewrite little notes, little keynotes that's going to help you to
right?
remember
Yeah.
the information.
Like we have a fellow student who we always laugh at. He highlights so much in the book, and his note cards are like front to back, just everything, just everything he writes tiny. You know what I'm talking. He's seen it, Bronson.
Well, you also
Who-
need
who-
to use
who's
different
that?
colors.
Josh, man, I tell you, he starts. He literally highlights it as we're reading it out loud.
Well,
I'm
see,
like, that's not doing you no good,
no,
man. But
no, you can't do that. And the other thing I always laugh
See how they
and say
call
is,
y'all Josh?
yeah, have more than one color. That's the thing,
Right.
because I've had that with kids. You know, it's like, well, wait a minute, you're just coloring everything. It's not going to pop out like that. So I usually tell mine to pick 3 colors.
Right.
Pick 3 colors.
See, but that's a good cue right there, because
Yeah.
most people will just use one
Right.
color.
I forgot about
No.
that. One of my teachers in high school, he was also a preacher,
Right.
and he showed me his study skill for his Bible, and each color had a different meaning. Like
yes.
if it was a definition or
There
just
you
different
go.
thing for each
Yes.
color. So that way, when he was skimming back over,
Right.
he knew that color meant to this, and
Yes.
Right.
it linked in his head. So
Yes.
yeah, that's a good idea.
See, so that's one tip there. That was a major tip. That's a jewel. You earn the crown right there, Miss Rutledge. That's called earning the crown. We're gonna give tips all day. I didn't even think of that. I mean, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
right there hit it on
Yeah.
the nose.
Because when you're going back, as you just, as your teacher told you, if I see everything in blue, then I know, oh, that's the definition. That's the
Right.
definition. And if I see something else here, then maybe this is, a meaning that I really need to begin to put back together. And I always tell kids that it's almost like a puzzle, if you think about it.
Right.
And you can take puzzle pieces and you can think you have that picture right there. But if you have that one little piece, you're trying to put it in there, it's not going to work. But if you step back and you revamp, then you begin to slide this in. And we, as human beings, we do recognize colors. Think about that. There's a reason why you have those primary colors, and those little thing of crayons. Your first box of crayons, you don't have 64 crayons in them. You have what? 8, I
Yeah.
think is what it is.
I think it's 8.
Yeah. And so that's what we kind of, look at. And so that's it. And our brain actually takes a picture of it.
Right.
And again, repetition, which that's the boring part.
So so you're learning how to learn.
Yeah.
Because there's lectures, there's repetition. Some people they learn better by projects, like we
Mhm.
talked about, or reading assignments. So you have to identify your learning style, which can help you determine what type of studying skills to apply.
Exactly. And I think the other thing is, believe it or not, when you talk about it, like I think we were
Mhm.
talking earlier about, having somebody in class that we know that we can talk, because when you have to talk
Collaborate.
about it, that
Collaborate.
collaboration,
Yep, collaborate with your
is-
classmates.
there you go.
Mhm.
And I always tell them, don't get boo-boo. Now, don't get boo-boo the fool that's going to play with you. You can't do that. So the point is, you want to find a partner that you feel like that even, and sometimes this works. I know when I've had students that I would often maybe see one kind of struggling, I'll put that one with a stronger student. You want to, because your strengths and your weaknesses right there, most of the time, that person that you're looking at that's on top of everything, they still have a weakness.
Right.
And so you begin to, you complement each other.
Because learning how others study can help you. It may give you some different ideas.
Right.
Because sometimes what you're not even knowing, you can see someone doing something strategic that's helping them get over the hump real fast.
Yes,
Don't be afraid to try it. And don't be afraid to ask for help and ask the expert.
that's the whole thing. There is no such animal as a stupid question. As my brother, who is a college professor, tells his kids, his students all the time, he says, "You're stupid if you don't ask it. If you don't understand it, then make sure that you can clarify it." And the other thing that I found that out from the years when I was teaching drama as well, sometimes, even though you may think that somebody's going to think, well, they're in there talking to yourself, but you keep saying it back and forth, say it out loud. And
Repetition.
even though we like music, we like, things there, but sometimes, before we can have the music and doing all the relaxing right there, we need to have a quiet zone.
Right.
Just that quiet zone right
I
there.
play a white noise maker when I'm studying.
Okay.
So that really helps me just get you know, because the dog's doing something
Right.
over here. And, you know, even if I'm at home by myself, we got 3 animals that never sit still.
What is a white noise maker?
I'll tell you later. It's the best thing you'll ever have. Sleep like a baby.
Okay.
But
Right. I'll have to try that.
one thing I was thinking about though is like the attitude of a student. You know, me when I was 18 going to school, my
God, it's
attitude
changed
now
so
is
much.
so much different because like now I don't care to ask the question
Right.
because the way I look at it is I'm giving Craig my hard-earned money.
There you
Yep.
go.
I figured out the other day, you know that rug we got at the front door?
Uh-huh.
I had to carry 50,000 of those to pay for school. 50,000. But now I'm not
Right.
afraid to ask that question
Right.
because
Right.
I feel, you know, that, hey, look, I've got to get
The word
this.
was an investment.
Right.
You have invested in it.
It's not a sacrifice. It's
And
an
that's it.
investment.
Yeah,
Right.
it's an investment.
Right.
And so the thing that you're looking at often, I think that even again with the younger ones, it's like, well, I got to do this, or what is this going to happen? And I can say from the years that I was really doing seniors, that's really my expertise was senior literature. And so, you know, you're giving them all of these British terms and you're doing all of this. And I finally told them one day, I said, you know, I'm going to tell you something I told my sons a long time ago. It's better to have it and not need it. So this is the way that you look
Ooh,
at this. You do
Another
not.
crown, another
Yeah,
crown,
yeah,
another crown
yeah.
being earned.
It's better to have, and so that's the whole thing. And so you're talking about exposure,
Mhm.
and when you begin to
Stay
broaden your
informed.
horizons,
You have to stay
yeah,
informed.
yeah,
You got to stay informed.
and you want to do that
Make sure you
because
understand.
and where you are now, the two of you and anyone else that is thinking about, you know, doing another career right there, you also bring your wisdom to this. So you've lived. That's another thing. So you're bringing that wisdom in. So you've invested in your education. You know where you want to go. That's also because of the money that's involved. It's like, look, I've got to get my money's worth right here.
Which also
Right.
involves
Yes.
managing your time.
Right.
Because when you're studying, you got to manage your time. And one key thing that's a distraction right now, social media,
Oh, yes.
your cell phone. Put that to rest. Give yourself the opportunity to learn. Because if you're checking your social media every 5 minutes, you're not retaining
Mm-mm.
nothing.
Mm-mm. But you're quiet.
You hadn't heard
That's
it
a
yet.
first.
No, but you're quiet, and I'm kind of, you know, because I was listening to when you were talking earlier, you know, about your dad and some things. along those
Bronson
lines.
is just thinking about this competition we have on Saturday.
Oh,
Trying to
man.
figure out-
Oh, y'all having a competition.
Yeah.
Apparently, Craig's having one's what I hear. I don't know.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
we taking the show on the road. We're taking our school to another school in Knoxville, the
Okay,
first ever competition like that in the country.
all right,
Barber school versus barber school.
all right.
And Brunson, he's thinking about it.
Okay,
He don't know
all
yet.
right. Okay, I got you.
He's managing his time. But as we've been talking, Brunson, I want to hear your voice too. What do you think?
About studying?
Yeah.
Man, there's so many different things you can do to study. Some things just click, you know. You can watch students going through school. Like one thing I struggled with was history. It did not matter how hard I tried to study. To me, I hated history. It didn't matter how much I read on it, studied on it. I would just get by just enough. But shoot, you throw me a science book, I was all for it. I was like,
Right.
all right, you know, I was interested in it. And then you got things like math. Math I never had to think about. It just clicked.
Right.
And you know, so like it goes to show different versions of studying. Like math, I didn't have to study because I didn't want to study because I was like, okay, I get that, you know. History is where I needed to study, but I hated it and I would not study. So that was one of my, in English, you know, we got English teacher here, so
Don't worry. Most of the time, kids that hate, kids that like English, they do not like science, and they do not particularly care for, you know, your math. But those are all also things that you're in other words, English and history goes across this way.
Yeah.
You know, you're going all the way across the board. When you're talking about science, you're doing an experiment, you get the result. Okay. When you're doing a math problem, you've got this steps that you do, but then you get the result. When you talk about English, we have to talk about culture. We have to talk about the background history, and that works together. So I can see but that's something that, and so for you, that was too labor intensive. In other words, look, I can, you know, do this algebraic problem and I've got my equation. I'm ready to roll. I don't want to worry about, who invented it and who did this and who did the other. So that's why you'll probably be a very good barber, because of the fact that when you're looking, again, what you've got to do, and you're going to see the finished product. The reason I'm saying you're going to see the finished product,
See
you're
the
visualizing.
the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes you heard that.
Yeah. So there
See
you
the
are.
end of the movie.
Yeah. You know what it looks like. You don't want, even in your competition, you don't want to send them out looking crazy. So you're going to have.
That's why he's scared, because he just started.
But in your mind, because whether you realize it or not, it's also artistic.
Yes.
You're doing something artistic. So regardless, you know what you want your finished product to look like. So once again, you're invested in that. That is reflecting you. When anything is reflecting us, it becomes very personal. You see what I'm saying? So those other things, it's like, I need to know about English. I mean, I hear that all the time. And my response there usually is, well, you know what? One day you might want to start a business. I have said this all the time. And I said, and you want to be able to write out a proposal.
Business
and
plan,
executive
summary.
And you're going to take that to the bank. And you're going to have something that you can present. So guess what? English is going to help you then. Right now, no, you're not going to talk about Romeo and Juliet. You're not going to talk about Macbeth, but you've got you have got this basic plan, and you had to write it out. And just the idea that you wrote it out also shows your sincerity. But again, that's an investment. And see, when you were in high school, same way I was with math. It's like, look, I don't want to do that. It was of no interest to me. But then I could sit and talk about all this other stuff all day long. So there you go.
But I mean, just like studying, though, if it's something that actually sparks your interest,
yes,
you don't have problems studying.
Right.
I feel that way. I mean, if it's something that you have a hard time, like this past chapter about all the skin, we got a girl at school that's a aesthetician, and I picked her brain for probably 2 days straight about everything. They said, "You're really into this skin." I said, "I know nothing about skin, guys. Like, that's not something I've ever even thought about."
Right.
When you you didn't think come to barber school, you didn't have to even put that much effort into that.
Lord, no, I'm thinking mustache, beards, and receding hairline. We start talking about skin and acne. I'm like, oh, whoa. I mean, they say them words so fast, it sounds like a witchcraft spell. They say them too fast, chair's gonna start floating.
So let's get back on this topic. And another underrated thing that people forget about is rest.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my Lord.
You need to rest your body to absorb the information, because you have to receive it, to retain it, and then you can apply it.
But you've also got to include your diet.
Well, that's coming. That's
Okay.
coming. That's
All
coming.
right.
That's
All
coming.
right.
That's coming. That's coming. Rest is so vital. And as you know, Brunson, you're in the gym. And you tell your clients all the time, rest is an important part of this progression to get where you need to go.
Definitely.
Why?
I mean, your body needs time to heal. The brain is, just as important. I mean, you can't keep cramming and cramming and cramming and cramming. There comes a point when you're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself.
Right.
In the gym, we call it overtraining. But I mean, there's a such thing as overstudying. You can sit there and look at it, and all you're seeing is the words.
Right.
You're not actually reading the words. None of it's making sense because
So you have to
your
give
point.
You have to give yourself some time, some breaks. So typically, I think when you study, you can retain about 15 to 30 minutes at a time.
20 minutes.
How's in
20,
between? How's in
so you're in
between?
between 20 minutes. However, the younger, now that works for most of us, and I'm guessing right there because of that maturity. However, because of all of the social media and all of the things that children have been exposed to now, there's
Distractions.
research. The research now shows that the average child can only retain 10 minutes. And that's bothersome, but you know why? Because they also have looked at motion all the time. Go back and look at all those the little cartoons, the little things that, that they look at, and there's something with that animation right there. And that really bothered me because I have grandchildren, and I started thinking, whoa, wait a minute, I hadn't thought about that. But everything that they do, but 10 to 12 minutes is what they say is happening to young children now. For us, basically we always said 20 minutes. The brain will shut down. You were saying that just a few moments ago, that, with the body healing, after a while, you have to stop. Now, the other thing that I'm going to bring up is
Don't panic.
No, well, yeah, don't panic. But the other thing is, some people do better at night. Some people do better early in the morning.
Strategize.
Yeah, and so that's it. I'm one of those persons that I hit my peak about 10 o'clock at night when I'm writing, and it's just like zoom until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll crash. When I was in graduate school, most of the time, what I would do, I would come home, eat light, go to bed, set my alarm for about 10 or 11, get up and do what I was going to do. And it was, if it got real interesting, when you were talking just a minute ago, something interesting, there have been several times I've looked at literally and the sun's coming up and it's like, whoa. But you know why? Because I was so engrossed in what I was doing. It was interesting. And so I think when we're talking about that, we're also looking at, when am I at my best? When am I at my best?
You have
But
proper rest,
Yeah.
good
there you go.
nutrition.
Yes. And don't get bogged down with all the sugar. That's the first thing that we want to do, sugar and caffeine. But those work against us. And I mean, they do. And I'm a big coffee lover. I mean, I love coffee, just period. I love the taste, that kind of thing. But you have to monitor all of that, because your body can only take so much, and that.
Right.
With that,
And some people tend to just try to rely strictly on memory all the time. You can't just rely strictly on memory. And I think that's what a disconnect is, because most students who, when you don't know how to learn, study and learn, their go-to move is just try to read and try to retain it.
Well,
That's so difficult.
it is sometimes. But I'd always heard that your mind has the capacity to never forget nothing. It's just trying to find the capacity to bring it back out.
Right.
Like sometimes people talk about, if you're used to drinking coffee every morning, like you was talking about the caffeine, how it affects you. That if you go take a test and you have no caffeine that morning, and every time you've studied, you've had so many milligrams of caffeine in your system, your body is like in an awkward state, and it can't withdraw that.
Right.
So it goes back to having a strategy.
I mean, it sounds silly, but I mean,
No,
I
I believe that.
I remember back in school when we took, trying to think what those things was called. It was the big test that you had to take at the end of the year.
The end of course exam.
Yeah, those horrid
Yes,
things.
yes. Trust me.
That's why we have a specialist on the panel today, so she
I don't
can
like them. Yeah, but there
pick
you go.
those things up instantly when we can't remember it.
But they one day they give us something when we was taking it. I was like in 4th or 5th grade, and I never forgot this, and it's so silly that I remember it. Is they walked around and they give us, and in school, to have gum, that was amazing.
Now they
walked
candy.
around. They walked around and give us like spearmint gum because they said it helped oxygen flow to the brain. I was like, how stupid. I'm like, whatever it takes, girl, give me another piece of that gum.
I got you. Now they want us, sometimes in the lower grades, they'll give them like M&Ms or little things like that.
Tootsie Roll or something.
I had a teacher used to give us raisins. Said they were good for our brain. I don't know. I like raisins when I was a kid, so it didn't matter to me.
She's fooling. She's trying to grab your attention.
Look at me, man. If they wasn't chocolate covered, then she could keep them.
Oh man. But so we've talked about strategy. We've talked about learn how to learn, collaborating with a classmate, stay informed, manage your time wisely, get some rest and nutrition. Don't panic.
Yeah.
Don't rely strictly on memory. And focus on you. Focus on you. Get what works for you and focus on that. If it's working for you, don't deviate from it. Try to stay the course. What do you guys think?
I mean, everybody learns differently.
Everybody learns
That's
differently.
110% for sure. I mean, the note cards thing that you was trying this week at school, the past 2 weeks, man, it just don't work for me.
Okay.
It just don't.
Well, and that's something that
Right.
a lot of people can't.
And but then like that app, the Quizlet app, one of the girls at school showed me, that blew my mind. That
Right.
you could make like fake tests up on the stuff you was doing. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And like some of the games, like the match games, I mean, like I turned into a kid again. I was like, that's what that
Because
goes to.
That's why the Quizlet's made a lot of money. Whoever came up with Quizlet,
And that's
for
what
that
we make
reason.
it. That's what we make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what once you make it fun, once you make learning fun, I believe it becomes like second nature.
It's not mundane.
Yeah. It's not difficult. It's not something that's it's not heavy lifting.
One of the things that I do with especially like ninth and 10th graders, before I'm giving a test, I will tell them, I want you to write your test. I want each of you to come up with 5, I usually say something like it, 5 questions that you think are really good test questions. And believe it or not, that often works because then they're trying to think. Now they think they're getting inside my head, but the thing about it is, okay, now I want you to really think about this, and what do you think would be, and it makes them also look and determine what they think is important. And
Right.
if you and I think that's another thing, like when you were talking about, that's really what the Quizlets and all of these little things are. In other words, it's making it fun for you, but then again, it's like, wow, I hadn't thought about that. Okay, could I answer that if that was on a question? And most of the time, I find that works.
So I have some learning tools,
Okay.
and tell me what you guys think, because we can talk about everything we talked about, but there are some things, no matter what, if you don't employ them, everything you try and do might not even help you.
Well, that's going to be your foundation.
Right.
I mean, for example, I want you to know that you've got to sterilize stuff. I mean, I want you, you know what I'm saying?
Clean
I
our
want,
tools.
yeah, there you go. You got to
So-
have your equipment's got to
we
be
ain't
where
had
it
that
needs to
chapter
be.
yet.
Oh, you have?
Yes, we have.
Okay. Well, I want you to make sure that you're not giving me something, that there,
Well,
and all this.
even on a different level before that, you should attend all classes.
Well, yes.
But some people don't think that's important, Miss Rutledge.
Well, I have some students right now in this hybrid that
Yeah.
they think that they don't think that they have to come.
It blew my mind. I remember when we were sitting in our orientation, and me and Bronson afterwards, like, I guess all we got to do is show up. But we come from a different mindset.
Right.
Yeah.
We've worked, we've had jobs. We've got mortgages to pay. We've
There
got
you
things
go.
done. But then, like, we show up, and then you see some of these kids show up. Not even just the kids. I mean, some of the older people
Yeah.
that they don't show up. They don't.
You-
I'm not coming in today.
Right.
I was tired yesterday. Like, but yeah, this is what you got to be here to learn.
This is what you invested your money in.
Mhm.
Right.
So you have to attend class.
And you are also showing your vision. That's another thing. And so for someone that doesn't come in, it's like that lets you know right there where their discipline, is. And your self-discipline is what, is your motivator right there.
Arrive early.
You think?
I mean,
Yes.
that's thing. It seems like it's so simple and easy, but that's what holds a lot of people back. Arrive early, because
That's like the other day. I mean, I'm usually one of the first ones to school. I like to, even though class don't start till 9.
9.
I mean, getting there at 8:30. It's just something about getting there and feeling the vibe of the day. It sounds silly, but
No.
Bronson was off his whole day.
dude,
That day,
I'm
like he was
telling you, I
bad.
But it
walked in
gives
and
you-
that test was started, and I was like freaking out because I was like, "Oh God,
Oh, that day you had a car accident.
Yes.
yeah." I mean, I'd never been late like that, and I roll in close to 9 o'clock. I'm like already 30 minutes behind. I feel like my whole day
Well,
is shot.
when you come in early like that also allows you to relax. It gives you that minute. And as you did say that you're feeling the vibes, but when we're rushing all the time, our brain has to catch up even, with us right there. And it's like, otherwise it's like, okay, I'm here. Now I got to do this. Now I got to do the other. And when you come in and you sit down, it's like you're breathing out and you are allowing yourself.
Because the information that we're given, a lot of people, you would think common sense is common,
It's not.
but a lot of people don't, until they hear it, they don't think they need to apply it.
Right.
Why I got to come in early? Why do I have to show up on time? Why do I have to come every day? Because it's a learned skill that you're trying to be a master barber in this industry.
Mhm.
So if you miss a day, you miss something important. That might never be said again.
I mean, what barber shop owner wants to hire somebody who
There you
doesn't
go.
come in?
There you
know?
go. And that's one of the first things that years and years and years ago in my teaching, I didn't have an English position one year, so I was picked up to do what they used to have a program called Jobs for Tennessee Graduates. Every state had one. That was back in the early 90s. And that was geared really for the senior that did not think they wanted to go to college. They wanted to go straight into some kind of trade. And I used to have different businessmen come in and talk to the class. And the first thing they always talked to all of them, it did not matter. They always said, be on time. And they said that's the first thing they look at. And the second thing is how they interact, because you don't want to have somebody that you're going to hire that's going to keep stuff going all the time.
Right.
So, there you are.
Listen to the subject that's being taught. and ask questions. Listen to the subject that's being taught. If you distracted, you're in the classroom, that's not
Well,
conducive to learning.
you're selfish.
You're selfish. You're not picking nothing up.
Right.
Listen to the information that's being delivered. Take notes. Highlight important points. Pay close attention during summary and review session.
Mhm.
That right there might be the most important part. You can only read and understand so much, but when it really starts clicking is when it comes out of somebody else's mouth in their own words.
Right.
Mhm.
Because sometimes they dumb it down enough that it just clicks. Like they say it in a way, and you're like, that makes so much sense. But then when you read it in the technical terms,
Mhm.
you're like, what does that even mean?
Well, that's why
Mhm.
I have everybody with the note cards put their notes on there and then read it out, because everybody's going to read it out differently. And they might someone might pick it up how someone else reads it out.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people just wrote terms just so they didn't want to
Mm-mm.
they didn't want to sound because they knew they're going to have to read them out in class.
Well, the other thing is you also understand that, and when you said this just a moment ago, Craig, we all hear things differently too. You know, the process of this. And I was watching you. Is it Ronson?
Yes.
Okay. I was watching you just as, and I could tell here that I can almost see the cogwheels going in your brain, even though, you know, you're being quiet or what have you, and I could almost tell the way that you were processing. And so again, what happens is, you know, when we do have to say this out loud, then we're still showing how we heard that, which is why what you're saying is true. You know, when they start talking about it, it's like, okay, I know myself with the education, because actually my degree, my undergraduate degree, is actually in British literature and world literature, the things that you would hate probably. But you know,
You probably like it now, the history
uh,
part.
yeah, I love. But the thing that I'm getting at right there is when I went for my master's, and that was in education. So then I had to learn a whole new set of verbiage and a whole new set of what is this. And it was really comical in a way, because I had a very good friend who was a principal. She was about 12 years older than I. And I would say, what? She'd say, Faye, you do that all the time. You just didn't know that that's what they called it. You call that. And so I can relate when you're saying that, because it's like, oh, so that's what that is, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think that again is whenever you are collaborating, you're still having to say this. And I think that also, every time you're hearing it, that's also hitting a little place in your brain right
You're
there.
picking up something from someone else,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you had some tips from Sir Rutledge, like your top 10 tips to studying, what would they be?
You want 10?
Oh, you can only give 2. If you give, all right, your tips of studying. Give me your tips of studying. Go down the line. I know the first one you said, first thing you came out your mouth when you started talking, you said prioritize.
Yeah. And
Have
then,
a strategy.
yes. And of course, when Bronson said that he doesn't do well with
No cards.
flashcards, so okay, that's fine. And he realizes, you know, that. So then, what would be the next thing? Do you relate to? I'm still going back to the colors. In other words, does it help if you do? You know, does that help you? Because for me, again, I said I'm a visual, you know, learner, so that's going to help me.
So
You
have
know, right there.
about 3 highlighters.
Yes. 3, because you know, and you'll soon learn automatically. Your brain, you know, when you go in, your eyes automatically say, oh, you know, I know what this. And after a while, it's just second nature, you know.
And it's a little bit easier. So you won't overstudy. You might just want to study the points that you're good at.
And bubble mapping, I mean, that's what the kids call, but sometimes that helps you begin to start pulling
mind
this.
mapping.
Yes.
Mind map.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. And all of that still goes back to when we were talking about, because what we're talking about now is getting the information. Actually, you're calling it brainstorming. And after you brainstorm, then you have something to work with, and then you begin to start organizing. For me, I outline when I'm asked usually to go, if I'm speaking at a church or speaking before a business or what have you, I work with and this just does well for me. I work with an outline, and it's always topic, and that way I have that freedom that once I get comfortable, then I'm looking, but it keeps me on track right
Mhm.
there. Because the other thing I think, again, with you, Bronson, is that when you said history right there, I automatically thought, okay, I can tell you right. And that's why I said I was watching your brain. You do this step, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. I bet you anything that's why the way that you think. And then, now I might be wrong, and if
You're
I
pretty
am,
well spot on.
yeah, well, and so then that's why whenever you find an alternative, because it's a challenge to you. It's a challenge. So whether you realize it or not, that's why you like being able to get into a program, and then I'm going to match this here or this game or that kind of thing. That makes sense. You also said that you're working out. Well, once again, your brain is doing what your body does. So you work out. So that's why it's easy for you to do that. So that's why I said when I was looking at you, I can usually, at this point in my life, I can pretty much be with someone in about 5 minutes, and I can pretty much say, okay, this is what we need to do with them. The other thing is, which we've said several times, ask.
Ask the expert.
And I just think that's it. When you're saying 10, I just think automatically right there, ask. Don't be ashamed to ask, because, and don't be afraid of failure. And we don't spend money and fail, but what I'm saying is, if you go back and think about it, for example, I think, if memory serves me correctly, I do believe that Edison failed 1,000, and I think it's 1,017. It was like 1,000, and I want to say 17, but it was over 1,000 times before he got the light bulb like it needed to be. So consequently, I think that we are ingrained to think, oh, I failed and it's over. No,
Right.
because why did I fail? That's one of the lessons right there. I think, in other words, okay, I didn't get that. Now I have to look at it and say, okay, that didn't work, so let me try this. And you will find that usually helps us. But me, I don't like to fail, and it's like, oh Lord. And where I was retired just for 3 years and coming back into the school system, you wouldn't think that much had changed, but they had all this technology and different things, and I had to learn this program in less than a month's time, and I kept saying, I'm too old for this. But then it began to be a challenge. Just like, oh, okay, well, this is the way we did this. And it began, yes, to be fun. And then I found someone that I knew would not think I was Boo Boo the Fool if I went to them and said, okay, I don't quite get this. And then they would say, okay, well, show me what you're doing.
Because one of the key points that you said earlier is it's better to have it and not use it.
Yes.
Because, like I said, I didn't realize how much I love information, and then realize I didn't know how to study until I left college, and I got through college. So sometimes I sit back and I'm like, man, I should have got a 4.0.
Well, you have a toolbox now.
I was like,
that's
man,
what we call your toolbox.
And I love, there's no information that I don't like, that I'm not in love with. History, science, math, literature, everything.
But when you were in college, most likely, I'm just guessing that you had other agendas as well.
I was an athlete. I played sports.
I know.
But still, the information, I remember I was in this class, I think it was a Roman history course.
Right.
And I was like, man, that's such rich history.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd have put more energy into it, because that's information I would have loved to known right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a conversational piece. And as a barber, you have to have things to keep a conversation going. So when you realize that as a barber, information is useless no matter what it is, because that's all you're doing is having a conversation. You're making people feel comfortable. So that's to the point where you should even want to think about making learning even more fun, because the more stuff you learn, the more stuff you will know. And then you'll be able to have a conversation with anyone about anything on any topic.
And then that's your customers going to come back because they do feel comfortable with you.
Right.
That's why I give all this money to his wife. My nails. She knows things, but it's like, it's, and I would think that with barbering, it has to be the same thing. Your hairdresser or your nail tech or what have you, you're comfortable with them. And so they know you well enough until they know if you're having a bad day or if you're having, and they also, you have that trust factor that you know that if you say something, it's kind of like the old thing, even with bartenders, that they become that psychiatrist almost right
Yep,
there.
yep.
And I think that has a lot to do with that. And I'm using this now because, again, as your teacher, you should have that trust, and I think that's what an educator has to do, is make sure that you feel comfortable and you're not being judged.
Because the skill itself is gonna work itself out. But if you can't relate to people, you can't talk to people, you can't understand information, retain it, and then apply it, you won't be in the skill too long.
That's true.
Because everybody will be able to paint nails, cut hair, fix a tire, paint a wall. But what about that custom relationship?
Mm-hmm. I mean, in reality, I've had people, you're going, it's like, well, I'm not spending my money for this experience. I'm miserable, and I gave you this money, and yeah, I think I like my hair, but then all this other stuff that was going on, So that's part of that experience, I would think. I would think that you guys would, I think that, just looking at you and just listening to what you're saying, I think you're going to be very good barbers, because I also think that you understand those people skills, and again, when we were talking earlier about, just stuff.
Right.
Which goes back again when he's talking about being able to talk to anybody about anything.
That's one thing.
So the relevance.
One thing that pulled me to barbering is I said about the job I was working, I didn't want to do it forever because, just what is kind of a dead end job for me.
Right.
The only thing I enjoyed about it was getting to see my customers every week.
Right.
My customers were my friends. Like,
Right.
We hung out. I would go, and there was one place I'd go and sit in the boss's office for at least 30 minutes. And that's where I took my lunch break, was sitting in his office, just talking to him, talking about his kids and stuff. That's what I loved. And that's
Right.
what drew me to barbering.
You're a people person.
Right.
And this is something that you need to be in. I have a cousin who taught for 2 or 3 years. She did not really like people. So she found something else to do. And these are things that, that you're dealing with. Do you have children?
No.
Okay. Do you have children?
No, man.
Okay. All right. Well, when the time comes, if you ever have children, then you'll begin to, see that portion right there. And part of what we're talking about, I hope that you will remember, or even if it's nieces, nephews, or what have you, is, and I've seen this when people get impatient with the little ones because they think that they're supposed to be at this point and they forget that they're learning.
Yes.
They're learning at their own pace. And we're just overgrown kids. All of us, we really are. Those things that we learned when we were little, and I go back sometimes, and I've done that with my seniors for a long time. I said, look, when you came out of your mother's womb, did you just decide to get up and start walking? But I say that sounds foolish, but I said
it doesn't, because it teaches you a practical
Right.
lesson that
yeah,
everyone is on their own pace.
right. And you can't, and I always laugh and say, a baby has to learn how to turn over before you ever get up and pull up. And guess what? The worst thing we as parents can do is when they fall, when they try to take those first walk right there, you don't want them to fall and hurt themselves, but don't go over and rush and make it sound like it's like, okay, you can do it, get up again. And then after a while, they get that cowboy walk, with the whatever. And then eventually, then they walk like they're supposed to.
Yes,
So
right.
everything is stages.
Right.
It's a
Just
process.
stages.
That's a lot of other
Okay.
students asked me before I got my kit and started cutting hair. They're like, "You scared to cut hair?" I said, "No, I'm ready to mess up." I said, "Because right now I know Craig's there.
Right.
Craig can come behind me and help me fix that haircut and show me where to go and what I did wrong." But that's how you learn.
And that's
You
exactly
fail to
how you
learn.
learn.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? The barbell barber. I like that. The barbell. Where do you
5
see-
years from
5
now.
years from now.
She's
what
getting
do you see
Instagram and
yourself?
she's gonna start
I
following.
know. 5 years from now, me and my wife will own a shop.
Okay.
When I left my job, I'd worked in a factory for 9 years, and I just recently come out of an apprenticeship, so I just got back out of school with
Mhm.
my job for industrial maintenance,
Okay.
and good paying job, and I love the people I worked with, but I got put on nights, and
Beat
I
you up.
know.
It beat me down.
Yeah.
So we talked, and we was like, well, let's do this. Let's do
Mhm.
this. So when I left my job, it wasn't we're going to try to make this work. It was, oh, it's going to work. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. And so I feel like that gives me more of a drive to. I mean, I'm not really good one to talk to about studying because like I don't feel like I'm a good studier. I've got the drive that I've got to know it.
But the fact that you have the drive and you can see where you want to be, that will take over the study.
And then someone can learn from what you're doing wrong. If you don't
Oh,
consider
yeah.
yourself a study, you still have input to
Mhm.
add.
The only thing,
Someone can still learn what not to do.
yeah,
And you'll share that because again, it's like, whoa, I did this and that didn't work. Well then again, you're teaching. You're teaching. It's like, okay, we all know that didn't work this time, so let's try this.
and like Craig has pushed on the flashcards, and something that I learned about myself this past week with the flashcards is I said I'm not going to take no notes.
Mhm.
It's like I'm going to draw the pictures.
And you guess what? But
And you
no,
see what I'm saying?
but
That
that's- but that does work.
And you
So-
ad lib.
Yes.
So I started drawing the pictures exactly how they was presented in the book, like
Right.
talking about the hair, the medulla, the cortex, the cuticle. I drew that
Okay.
exact picture on my flashcard and labeled it how it was. And then whenever it was talking about things,
It makes
that
sense.
stuff started clicking.
And
And
that
that's
is
what
But
it's about.
exactly.
if I would have ever just wrote it out, it wouldn't work.
And that's what it's
Right.
about. We have to find our own niche.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did that because I copied you and it helped me too.
But
that's
that
the only
is
thing
true.
I've really
But
learned.
no, and to be honest about it, for me, flashcards is okay, but most of the time I just want a sheet of paper. And again, he said mind mapping. And you know why? Because I'm going to put this bubble here and then I've got to say, oh, okay, wait a minute, this comes over here. And so essentially we're doing the same thing. So just again, flashcards they do not work for everyone, but you've already determined if I draw it out. Now, the other thing is your brain is recording what your hand is doing right there. So that's why it makes sense to you.
So like I said, when we start the podcast, we can talk forever. You don't even realize we've been talking for like an hour now.
Oh my goodness.
Because you're just sitting down in the living room and just having a good time and just
Yeah.
vibing.
Now,
Yeah.
you all don't know that, but just talking with you has also made me revamp with some of the students that I have
Real impactful.
because it makes me go back and think, whoa, wait a minute. This in my mind flash 3 kids right now that are not doing anything. And it's like, because I'm not making it fun for them. I'm not making it fun.
Mm.
And so, we have to check ourselves as well.
Each one teach one. Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
So in our closing, give everybody a last thing what's your last tip you want to add about studying, Brent? And we'll go around the room.
Try, fail, and adjust. Try something out, see if it works for you. Try all these different ways other people have been talking about, using the flashcards. I tried it.
Right.
I told you it didn't work for me.
Yep.
Mhm.
I wanted to go back to the way I was doing it before because
Yep,
I thought it was better, but I tried something new. I failed, so I adjusted. I went back to where I was. So just figure out what works for you. There's one more. It doesn't matter how you get there as long as you get there.
Yep.
You can go any way, so learn it, but learn the best way for you.
Yep. And what'd you like about the podcast today? What do you think about it?
I actually learned. No, it's good. It's good to sit down and talk about this because I've got a timeline where I have to be done.
Right.
I got to get in the shop and start making money because my wife's working right now, and I'm not going to sit here and just disrespect her time
Right.
that she's working, and I'm just going to school. So, I've got to buckle down, and me and Bronson have already talked about when we get halfway there, we can go ahead and take
Right.
our book tests, our written tests for barbering. So, and then once we get that out of the way, we're done. So
It's just practice then.
if I buckle down right now, I can get that out of the way, and then I could just practice, focus on the haircuts.
We got a mile to go.
Oh, we got a long way to go.
But we're gonna knock it out. What do you think, Brunson? Your last tip
My
for
last little
studying?
thing, I guess I'll just say find your own way. There's a million different ways that you could try different things. The highlighters, the flashcards, like I said, there's different ways each person learns, but you got to find what works for you. Like Brendan said, you need to try other things. I
Yes.
mean, if I had not tried the flashcards as strongly as against them I wouldn't realize by drawing a picture how much whenever I actually got asked a question about what is the core of a hair, And I'm like, Medola, I drew it.
But if you
So,
think
like-
about it, that's how you learn. Because when you're describing the highway, you said the red barn,
Yeah,
the forklift.
yeah.
So you have the illustration in your mind, but you didn't realize you could apply it to paper and learn like that too. You already had that principle, but now it's just brought out in you.
And I guess one thing that I would say though is find you a good accountability partner
Yes.
when it comes to studying in school. Because me and Brent joke about it a lot. We're like, hey man, you got here 15 minutes late. I'm gonna graduate for you. So I mean, starting together, it's actually helped us both because we both come from working jobs for years that we give up everything. Like we literally give it all up to chase this. And
From my experience, most people who start together, they kind of form a bond that goes like unbreakable bond, and you almost kind of like have like a lifelong friendship. Most students I've seen that start together, they have that bond together. It's hard to break, and they want to do everything together, learn from each other, grow from each other, give each other tips. So that's good,
because you're in the same boat,
right?
You don't feel like you're the only one struggling, and feel like you're the only one falling behind.
And it's good. We kind of keep each other in check too. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some days we've had to, we get frustrated and we're not used to the young kids, and
That definitely makes a big
Yeah,
difference.
so we
Is-
kinda help each
Hey,
other.
Brunson, I seen you playing a game the other day, so I don't know now. I see you had your camera out, had your thing out. So I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about, Craig. I don't know
Oh,
what you're
my God.
talking about. That was Josh.
What'd you think of the podcast so far? What'd you think of
I
today?
enjoyed it a lot. It makes me want to go back and actually start listening to some of them. I'd never even listened to one till you asked me the other day, and I said, "Oh Lord, what are we getting ourselves into?"
But like Brent said, that kind of helped them transition to school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I listened to every podcast till I came to school, and then I haven't listened to any of them since. No, I did listen to one the other day.
yeah,
Just to
but it
remember what
helps.
it's like.
And I've heard several students say it kind of helped me give me a description of what to expect. What am I walking into? So, Ms. Rutledge, your last tip, your last farewell. But
Everything that you all have stated, I think, is excellent. But I'm just thinking about life, period. And when you stop and think about it, it is a journey. The destination is what you're looking at, but part of the joy of getting to that destination is your journey.
Right.
And I just really think that, as I'm looking at you, you're leaving things, you're not chasing a dream. You have your destination. So I'm just listening to you and I'm smiling under the mask. You can't, you can't see that because it's like I'm going to say, yeah, everything that you're saying. So might I say that your energy, your dedication, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And I say that. I mean, if I didn't think so, I'd say, oh, okay. But you're going to be fine. And I look forward to Craig telling me how you all are doing and when you all graduate. and
We're
all
gonna get that
stuff.
Instagram. We're gonna keep up.
Yeah, there you go.
yeah, you get what's going to be your Instagram name? Because everybody have to have an Instagram name. You just can't have the basic.
No, mine has to be mine has to be. You all are not going to like it because you like it, but mine always with everything I do. I'm the diva of lit.
I can see it. I can
Yep.
just see I can just see you doing the
I
finger
had-
snapping.
Yeah, I had my first
Look,
my
you know
first,
this is live, right? People
yes,
on
yes,
Facebook
yes,
seeing and hearing this.
yes,
The diva of the lit.
And the
Okay.
diva of lit.
That's it. Because and I had a principal that nicknamed me. He used to tell me, he said, "You just got a diva." I was, a lot younger and cute then, and walking around in
You're
heels.
still cute.
Well, I was walking around in heels and all this could mean professional and all that kind of stuff. And so I probably have back problems now. And so 2 or 3 others, they say, well, here comes the diva. And so I just started saying the diva of lit, so that's it. Sometimes I'll sign it like that, the diva of lit.
So that's why you got into teaching drama. You're a diva queen.
Well, sort of. Well, when you go back to that, I kind of picked that up on the side right there. When you go into teaching, you end up, they always want you to do something else, and so that was one way that was as close to coaching as I was going to come. I'm married to an athlete, but when they would look at me, do you think you want to sponsor that group? And it's like, sure, but do you want them to win? That's the key right there. Sure, give me a book on what softball right here. Oh yeah, that's good. So I could stick with what you know.
So what you
see?
like? What you think about the podcast? This
I
whole
think the
atmosphere, this whole vibe.
podcast-
What you like about it?
I like, first of all, just the freedom. Just the freedom. I mean, when I'm saying the freedom, it was not, I'd not done a podcast. And to be honest about last night, I was lying in bed. I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I said I'm going to do? And then, I listened to some of what he was doing and I kept thinking, just be Faye. And so at this point, I really, really think that all the input, I think it was good. I think that that what has happened right here, regardless of the barbering, I think anybody that was having any problems with studying, period, and that they also can understand that by hearing this, that, hey, I learned that way, or hey, I hadn't thought about that. And I'm okay. So I really do. I think this is great. And, if I was a little bit younger, I might decide I don't want to go to barber school.
You still can.
But see, the problem right there is when I would be giving you the best cut I could, and then you're going to turn around and tell me, I was like, oh no,
The diva.
The diva of lit.
See, that's why I says, stick with what you know, because my whole thing, look, I am not a magician. This is your head. This is what I got to work with. I did the best I could, so that's it. So no, I don't need to be that,
As we close, my last tip is just ask the expert. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
And trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
Trust yourself.
And again, Barber College Success brought to you by Craig Charles of Crown Cutz Academy, JC, Crown Cutz Academy, Bristol, Virginia, and Craig's Crown Cutz downtown, JC. Spreading the love the JC way. The only way we know how to do it, to spread love the Crown Cutz way. With the Diva and Fold,
The Barbell Barber.
the Barbell Barber, Action Bronson, and Brent.
Bahia Cutz. Bahia Cutz.
You're supposed to like holler,
I
man.
don't know. Bahia Cutz. More Viking-esque.
And we out.